Chapter 30 is called To the Dungeon. Oh my goodness. At the castle, for the first time in her young life, Mig had enough to eat. And eat she did. She quickly became plump and then plumper still. She grew rounder and bigger, only her head stayed small. Readers, as the teller of this tale, it is my duty from time to utter some hard and rather disagreeable truths. In the spirit of honesty, then, I must inform you that Mig was the tiniest bit lazy. And two, she was not the sharpest knife in the drawer. That is, she was a bit slow-witted. Because of these shortcomings, Louise was hard-pressed to find a job that Mig Rousseau could effectively perform. In quick succession, Mig failed as a lady-in-waiting. She was caught trying on the gown of a visiting duchess. A seamstress, she sewed the cloak of the riding master to her own frock and ruined both. And as a chambermaid, sent to clean a room, she stood open-mouthed and delighted, admiring the gold walls and floors and tapestries, exclaiming over and over again, "Gor, ain't it purty? Gor, ain't it something?" and did no cleaning at all. And while Mig was trying and failing at these many domestic chores, other important things were happening in the castle. The rat, in the dungeon below, was pacing and muttering in the darkness, waiting to take his revenge on the princess. And upstairs in the castle, the princess had met a mouse, and the mouse had fallen in love with the princess. Will there be consequences? You bet. Just as Mig's inability to perform any job well had its consequences. For finally, as a last resort, Louise sent Mig to the kitchen, where Cook had a reputation for dealing effectively with difficult help. In Cook's kitchen, Mig dropped eggshells in the pound cake batter. She scrubbed the kitchen floor with cooking oil instead of cleanser. She sneezed directly onto the king's pork chops moments before it was to be served to him. "Of all the good-for-nothings I have encountered," shouted Cook, "surely you are the worst, the most cauliflower-eared good-for-nothingest. There's only one place left for you, the dungeon." "Huh?" said Meg, cupping her hand around her ear. "You're being sent to the dungeon. You're to take the jailer his noonday meal. That will be your duty from now on." Readers, you know that the mice of the castle feared the dungeon. Must I tell you that the humans feared it too? Certainly, it was never far from their thoughts. In the warm months, a foul odor rose out of its dark depths and permeated the whole of the castle. And in the still cold nights of winter, terrible howls issued from the dark place, as if the castle itself were weeping and moaning. "It's only the wind," the people of the castle assured each other. Nothing but the wind. Many a serving girl had been sent to the dungeon bearing the jailer's meal, only to return white-faced and weeping, hands trembling, teeth chattering, insisting that they would never, ever go back. And worse, there were whispered stories of servant girls who had been given the job of feeding the jailer, who had gone down the stairs and into the dungeon, and who had never been seen or heard from again. Do you believe that this will be Mig's fate? Gore, I hope not. What kind of a story would this be without Mig? "Listen, you cauliflower-eared fool," shouted Cook. "This is what you're gonna do. You take the tray of food down to the dungeon, and you wait for the old man to eat the food, and then you bring the tray back up. Do you think you can manage that?" I reckon so," said Mig. "I take the old man the tray, and he's what's on it, and then I bring the tray back up. Empty it will be, and I bring the empty tray back up from the deep downs." "That's right," said Cook. "Seems simple, don't it? But I'm sure you'll find a way to bungle it." "Huh?" said Meg. "Nothing," said the cook. "Good luck to you. You'll be needing it." She watched as Mig descended the dungeon stairs. They were the very same stairs, readers, that the mouse Despereaux had been pushed down the day before. Unlike the mouse, however, Mig had a light. On the tray with the food, there was a single flickering candle to show her the way. She turned on the stairs and looked back at Cook and smiled. That cauliflower-eared good-for-nothing fool, said Cook, shaking her head. What's to become of someone who goes in the dungeon smiling, I ask? Readers, for the answer to Cook's question, you must read on. That's the end of the chapter. Why is Mig going into the dungeon? Yeah, to bring Gregory the jailer his food. It's the one job that she hasn't messed up yet. She didn't really make a good maid or a seamstress or a serving girl, any of the other jobs in the castle. So the last job that Cook gave her was to go feed Gregory the jailer. What is the dungeon like? Yeah, it seems pretty scary. There's a foul odor. It smelled really bad. People could hear like wailing and moaning. Ooh. But can Mig smell or hear the wailing? No, right? So I wonder if Mig is scared to go into the dungeon. Does Mig seem scared? Not really. How do you know she doesn't seem scared? What does she do? Yeah, she turns around at the end and she smiles back up at Cook. And the cook is like, who smiles going into the dungeon? Gotta keep reading to find out. All right, let's go.